Welcome to the studios of First Star Logistics, and thanks for joining us on In the Trenches with Dave Lapham. I'll tell you, Chris Sims is today's guest. Saw him play in the Big 12 at University of Texas when he was a collegiate football player. A lot of respect for him as a player, his toughness as a player. Then he little stint with the New England Patriots. Bet you didn't know that. He was a quality control football coach for the Patriots before going into this illustrious broadcast career that he's part of right now. And we talked draft with him, kind of a Cincinnati Bengals mock draft with Chris Sims, rounds 1 and 2. I think you're going to like it. Well, this is a real honor. I'm telling you. First Star Logistics presenting In the Trenches with Dave Lapham. And what a presentation today we have. We got Chris Sims joining us as our special guest. And what a guy to have right before the draft. Really respect this young man. Not only a great player, but Chris Sims Unbuttoned, as good a podcast as you're going to ever want to listen to and watch. NBC Sports Network, Pro Football Talk Live. I listened to the show this morning, watched it, listened to it with you and Mike Florio. Bunch of nuggets, man. You guys dropped gold all over the place. It was a great show.
Thanks, Dave. It's always great to talk to you, catch up. It's been a while since I've seen you in person, but this is awesome, and I always love talking ball with you. And don't worry, just put it on my tab for the nuggets. That's all right. You can steal the info, just put it on my tab. That's all right. No big deal.
All right, so we're going to give a little background on Chris Sims. And, man, I mean, at the high school level, what a career you had in high school. ESPN Rise National High School Junior Player of the Year in 1997. And then in 98, you're USA Today's Offensive High School Player of the Year, USA Today High School All-American. Man, and then you also hooped. What were you like in basketball? Obviously, you're a great football player, one of the best in the country, top recruits in the country. How is the game in round ball, man?
Oh, I love some round ball. I still do it. I love, that's what stinks about the pandemic is I haven't been able to play pickup basketball. But, I think if I really attacked basketball, I could have been a low-level Division I basketball player, right? I had some interest as far as that. I was a shooting guard who at that time was 6'4". We had a pretty good squad. Like, I believe my senior year, we were 29-4. We had a center that went Division I and played Division I basketball. So, we were good in high school. You leave me open, I could knock down a three for sure. But, New Jersey basketball, as you probably know, it can get pretty real as you get down into those final 5, 8 teams, and where you go, whoa, the starting 5 is all going Division I. They're all going to Kentucky and North Carolina. So we didn't quite make it that far. We were a pretty good squad.
But what about your high school football teams? You guys pretty much dominated, didn't you?
We did. We had a really good high school football team. My junior year especially. My junior year, we were, in the USA Today top 5 teams in the country. Had a lot of low-level Division I players, right? Guys that went on to not to say low level. Boston College and Stanford Medina had great careers there, but played. Right. So we were a really good football team. Old school coach Mike Miello, who was like a Lombardi disciple, yelled. We ran the ball way too much and didn't throw the ball enough, but we were damn good.
So you initially you commit to go to Tennessee. And then you decommit and decide to enroll at University of Texas with Mac Brown down there. And that's where I first got my first look and taste of Phil Sims' son, Chris Sims, this quarterback that is such a good player. And I'll tell you had a great career at Texas, 26-6 as a starter. When you graduated from Texas, that was the second most career wins at Texas at the time, other than Bobby Lane. That's pretty good company. What was most memorable about your career at Texas?
Well, it's a special school, that's for sure. And one of the big reasons I went down there was I wanted to kind of be a part of the uprising of Texas football once again, right? My senior year was the year Ricky Williams won the Heisman, and you were kind of like, man, this Mac Brown and Ricky Williams and things. They seem like they got Texas going in the right direction here. And I thought, wow, for like a storied program with all that history and everything, it'd be cool to be, part of kind of the back on the scene type of thing there. I mean, again, I don't know if there's one moment. I'm very proud that I never lost a home game in Darrell K. Royal Stadium. The record overall it was, of course, like you said, good. But I think it's the big games, the rivalry games. Texas A&M, we couldn't beat Oklahoma in the damn Red River rivalry, damn Boomer Sooners, all that crap. And I'll tell you, a game I think you announced, if I remember correctly. I always remember that Nebraska game my senior year. And that was a fun one because, of course, Nebraska was really good back then and didn't lose much in Lincoln at that time.
Yeah, that was a huge win. That was a massive win. And you went to the Cotton Bowl a couple of times. You go to the Holiday Bowl. I mean, you guys had you definitely had a good run. Interestingly, one of the things that I remember most about you was your toughness. I'm trying to remember the game, but I remember
think it was Nebraska
where you dislocated your finger.
Right.
And you dislocate your finger. You go to the sideline. Turn your head, they put it back in place, and then you're right back in the game. I'm like, I love this guy. I mean, it's I don't think you even missed a play. It was maybe one play.
Right.
Yeah, because of the rule. If you're injured, you have to be out one play, and you're right back in that football game. I'm like, man, this is one tough guy. And then in your professional career, this one's amazing. I had to make sure I don't mess this up. And let's see, this was in 2006, September 24th. You're taken off the field against the Carolina Panthers. You take some big hits. You return to the game. You lead a touchdown drive. You remain kind of funky, little physically distressed still. After the game, you're taken to the hospital. You have a ruptured spleen. Undergo immediate emergency surgery, and then lost 5 pints of blood before the operation. Another 45 minutes. Could have been a real problem. I mean, Chris, you're on. That's a touch and go situation.
Yeah, I mean, I was on death row. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's really they brought my wife in to say goodbye to me before surgery because they weren't sure. Because I was, I think ultimately they said I lost 7 or 8 pints of blood before they finally opened me up. So yeah, that is the, probably the thing I'm most famous for my NFL career. It stinks. It's horrible. I'm proud of it to a degree. But Dave, I mean, I grew up in the era that, maybe not that you did, but my dad did. And he played for Bill Parcells. And, first off, like back to the college story, I'm not coming out of the game for a broken finger or a dislocated finger. I mean, the hell with that. Right. And then, when the NFL, the spleen injury, it's a rare injury. I didn't think I was bleeding internally until the very end of the football game. I thought maybe I had a rib puncturing my lung. I couldn't quite figure it out. But, again, the household I grew up in, the way I believed in football, I was just like, I don't see any blood. I don't see any bones. Let's suck it up and keep playing football, even though I was miserable. And thank God the doctor told me to go to the emergency room, and I didn't go home for a little bit and try to tough it out. And, they got to the root of the problem, and I was in surgery, and, basically they saved my life.
That's just unbelievable. I do remember also when you were at Texas, you had a teammate who was playing wide receiver by the name of Kyle Shanahan. So you have Chris Sims throwing to Kyle Shanahan, and both of you guys have generated unbelievable careers. Him obviously in the coaching world, and then you in the broadcast profession. What was it like? What kind of a mind did Kyle Shanahan show you? You have a great football mind. What kind of a mind did he show you when you guys were teammates at Texas?
Yeah, we hit it off right away because of like our football upbringing. And, of course, I grew up in it. He grew up in it. His dad was one of the offensive coaches when my dad beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl in 1986. So there's all of that stuff, So that's really where it jumped off. Right away, the first day of workouts we had together, he transferred from Duke to come to Texas. I mean, we were, two peas in a pod. It was football all the time. And that really got the friendship going. And then, like me, he was obsessed with the sport. But where I got to see Dave, where I knew okay, I knew he was going to go into coaching when we left college. I knew that.
Right.
I didn't know how good he would be or anything like that. But my second year in the NFL with John Gruden and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kyle Shanahan ended up getting hired by John Gruden to be the quality control coach on the offensive side of the ball. And that's really where I got a real inside look to, what makes Kyle tick as far as at his job, his knowledge, his thirst for more knowledge. And that is really where I knew I was like, oh man, it's just a matter of time before this guy's a head coach or a special coach in the league. And the thing I'll always remember, quarterbacks are usually the last guys in the facility and all that. I'd be walking around late at night and Shanahan would be sitting in the defensive coach's room on the floor. And, we had a hell of a staff. Mike Tomlin was the defensive secondaries coach. Raheem Morris was also a secondary coach. We had Rod Marinelli, Mike Kiffin, Joe Barry, who's the D coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, it was special. Gus Bradley, D coordinator of the Raiders. And Shanahan would sit in their meetings and he learned defense. And that's what's made him great at offense. He knows all the rules of all these defenses. And that's why he's so special on the offensive side of the ball as a play caller.
Well, that's a great story. That's great. I guess the thing that people probably wondered, okay, Shanahan, father, unbelievable coach. Sims, father, unbelievable quarterback. You guys, you could go either way. You could crumble under the pressure of that, trying to live up to that, or you could embrace it and run with it like you guys did. How tough was that in the decision-making process of what kind of motivated you?
Sure. I love sports growing up. That's the first thing. I just loved it. And I was the kind of kid, you can ask anybody that grew up around me or even in college, I wanted a ball in my hand all the time. Let's go have a pass. Let's go shoot some hoops. Let's go have a baseball catch, whatever it was. So I played for the love of the game. I mean, that's what I did. It wasn't about I didn't give a damn who my dad was or anything like that. I mean, of course, I knew who he was, and I was very into his career. And then growing up here in North New Jersey, right outside of New York City, I mean, come on. The Northeast. There's a lot of jerks up here. I had people hazing me and yelling crap at, your dad sucks. Sims sucks. Go Niners. Go Jets. Go Hostetler. I always heard that stuff growing up. But I loved to compete and play too much to worry about all that stuff. And then really I used it all a little bit as a jump off point too, to be like, oh yeah, you think my dad stinks? Well, watch me kick your son's butt in all these sports and, watch me dominate your friend in basketball here. See what you have to say about that. So I enjoyed the performing part of all of it too. So it was natural that way. And I think my dad always saw that love in me. And I had a dad who did not put pressure on me in any way. And I think that's probably the last piece of the puzzle that, allowed me to flourish in sports.
Your dad, yourself, your brother Matt, everybody played the quarterback position at an extremely high level. I mean, you guys are really one of the first families of football. There's no question about it. I respect the heck out of all you guys. In a little bit of a bridge, you went to the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick to be a quality control coach yourself for a year, where you were breaking down tape and then kind of specializing in scouting reports, helping with all that kind of thing. So how big of a plus was that in that experience in terms of what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, unreal experience. I was there for 18 months, and really got out of the business just because, I mean, as you know, coaching's brutal on family life, and especially coaching in New England. That's like times two as far as being brutal on family life. So I had two young kids, now they're 14 and 10, but at the time, I believe they were 6 and 2 or 7 and 3, something like that. And I just got done with the first full season and I went, man, I'm struggling. I don't know if I can keep doing this where I just see my kids once a week or something like that. That bothered me. But nonetheless, the experience was amazing to see how, the donuts are made behind the scene with the New England Patriots and learn their process on how they do things. And Also, yeah, I got a good little taste, like you said, of the quality control and breaking down film for the offensive side of the ball and all those things where I learned great X's and O's knowledge. But that scouting little niche they had me do, I was in charge of making tapes for all the draft eligible players in the Northeast, right? So I always had to make sure I updated the tapes in case anybody wanted to watch them and do all that stuff. But it just gave me another little road of knowledge into, okay, wait, this is how front office business works. And my desk was in the front office. So I really got to see kind of both sides of it in the 18 months. And I got to see what, New England, the crowning jewel of all the NFL football teams, and how cohesive they are from the coaching department to the front office and how they make it work so well that way, let alone the legend of Bill Belichick. Listen, just to walk around in his presence is pretty special. So it was a great experience, Dave.
So do you have any inclination? I've asked your dad this multiple times, and I can imagine both of you have been solicited for front office positions, whether it's director of football operations, general manager, whatever the case may be, because of your overall, such a broad understanding of the game of football and personnel and relationships and all that sort of thing. Ever any interest in that regard?
Definitely. Yes. I've had some personnel and friends, and I've had a few dabbles already, over the last few years about, do you want to get involved? Do you like to come here and work? I'm not quite ready for that yet, but it's definitely something that's on my radar. There's no doubt about that. I am fascinated by evaluating players, team building, all of that type of stuff. And, I think with the timing and my kids maybe getting off to college, right now I'm really enjoying what I do for NBC Sports. And I don't want to end that, certainly. But, yeah, there's certainly some aspirations to maybe get involved in that side of the business at one point in time in the future.
You've already got vast experience in the broadcast world. Initially with Fox, you're a college football analyst. You go to CBS, you're an NFL analyst with your dad, and then now you're at NBC and doing what you're doing on the pregame show, and then all the other ancillary programming you do with NBC. You're probably one of the busiest guys at the network. It's pretty remarkable what you're doing. So I think that your opinion on the draft, I love listening to your podcast, and I love watching you and Mike do your thing. Thank you. Because there's always some, like I said, some nuggets, man. There's always some good stuff to really make you think. You were the first one that was bullish on Wilson. And I remember it was a while ago, Chris. It wasn't here just recently, where you were the guy. I think you were the guy that had the first big impression on Wilson, and a bunch have followed you since. But you were the guy that said, hey, this is my guy at quarterback. Why?
Yeah, well, listen, first off, I like working and doing this stuff and evaluating the players and all of that. I don't get too caught up into, the media hype or anything like that. I go into it with a clean slate. I'm a very casual college football watcher. Like, I'm not like, my whole week, like you said, I'm busy 6 out of the 7 days of the week. I'm really kind of grinding NFL football type of stuff. So Saturday comes along, yeah, I might watch the one big game of the day or whatever, but I'm not going to spend the whole day watching every college game and be like, hey, family, screw you. I got to watch some college football on the couch today. I do try to be a dad. So, I think that benefits me a little bit, that I don't go into preconceived notions with the quarterback stuff or anything like that. And, yeah, when I came away, it's not an indictment on Trevor Lawrence, who I really like. He's worthy of being the number one pick, and he's going to be the number one pick. But Zach Wilson, I think the first thing that just popped off to me was, of course, the arm talent, just how special it was in every facet. Not, one, explosive, power, can make any throw on the field and make it with ease. So that jumped out to me. Then, okay, wait, the off-platform throws. Oh, there's people around him in the pocket. He can still throw a 20-yard in-cut with great pace as a sidearm throw, or backpedaling like we've seen in the pro day and that type of stuff. And then you talk about the athlete and the ability to get out in space and kind of extend plays. Hey, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Yeah, he's kind of good at that. right?
Mm-hmm.
That's modern day NFL football play right now. Mahomes is Mahomes, Rodgers is Rodgers, Josh Allen is Josh Allen, because their ability to escape the pocket and then manipulate coverage to unleash the laser down the field and throw some great throw. And those are the things I saw from Zach Wilson that I just came away in awe of. I think there's a lot of Rodgers and Mahomes to his football game. And I like Trevor Lawrence, but I love Zach Wilson, as you could tell, and he is my favorite quarterback in the draft.
You know, it's interesting as a former lineman, I'm into feet and hands because, you know, lineman starts with your feet, ends with your hands. And I'm not saying I can evaluate quarterbacks by any stretch of the imagination, but the thing when I watch Wilson, jackhammer feet, and his hands are so quick. When he gets the ball,
Right.
it's gone. His hands are quick. I mean,
Really
there's
quick.
no wasted motion there. It is out. And I think
No
that's going to
doubt.
serve him well. That's going to serve him well, you know. And so I okay. And this morning I'm listening to you guys, and you're talking about Fields, and Fields is sliding a little bit. Still a great player. I mean, like you don't want to rip these guys. They had great careers. They're great players.
Right.
But when there's things that catch an expert's eye, like caught your eye about Justin Fields, what about his mechanics bothersome to you?
Yeah, you know, and again, it is. You know, you said it right. It's tough. I'm rooting for Justin Fields. You know, I got a lot of respect for what he's done in his college career. I know he's a fine young man. There's a lot of talent to like. You know, he's an elite athlete. His running is truly elite. The power in his arm is elite. But it's the consistency in the arm with just normal everyday throws that you would expect a senior in high school to hit, let alone NFL quarterbacks. And that to me is what scares me because yes, you know, the mechanics, there's flaws in it, and it leads to moments of like, wow, how can you miss that throw? Wow, he's wide open and he couldn't even get a hand on it type of throws, let alone some questionable decisions. But yeah, within the mechanics themselves, Dave, you know, without getting too in the weeds and everything, you know, it just very rarely gets pieced all together. You know, you hear phrases of like throwing all arm, right? Rodgers has a great arm. Mahomes has a great arm. Yeah, they have great arms, but they've mastered the true technique of how to throw the football textbook first. And that allows them then to start to go, oh, wait, I need to throw it like this. Well, I know how to do it perfect. So now I can kind of, you know, freelance a little bit, right? And you know, so they're machines to be able to do that stuff. Fields has true issues with just normal, clean pocket. He's got a hitch in his giddy up. And for lack of getting too technical with this, you know, if you saw a Rodgers or Mahomes, they're going to go like this and piece it all together as they throw. Fields will get like this and then lift the elbow and then try to throw the ball that way. You know, that's an all-arm throw. And that's the arm working as an independent contractor. And it's hard to be consistent that way, let alone there's some issues with the footwork too, Dave. You know, he needs a lot of space to throw the ball because of the long delivery. And then he can at times get his feet close together and then almost push off the mound like a baseball pitcher. And you just can't get away with that in the NFL. And these are tough things to fix. And I think that's what scares me. And I think there's probably some smart people in football who see it too and go, ooh, that's a little scary too. I don't know if it's a guarantee I can fix this type of thing. And that's what concerns me about Justin Fields.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team. I was interested too, and I'm trying to remember, I think it might have been on your podcast. I was listening to you talk about Trey Lance, and you said he has a tell where he'll turn his shoulder and then come back and throw. And he has that tell, and then it slows his delivery. So I went back and I watched a little bit, and I'm like, man, Chris Sims, the dude is right on it. I mean, that's something that has to be corrected too. Is that easily correctable?
That's you know, no, it's not easily corrected. And then, you know, I like Trey Lance. There's more consistent things he does in his throwing than Justin Fields. But where it becomes an issue with all of that at times is, okay, if he knows he wants to throw over here and do that, that's fine. He could throw it in normal rhythm. But now, life in the NFL, like we were just talking about, okay, the two guys over here I got ready to throw, they're not open. Now I got to flip to the middle of the field to my third read coming across the middle. We don't have time to do all this again. And, the NFL, it's split seconds. You know that. It's splitting hairs between, great throw on time throw as compared to pick six and the ball's going the other way. So a little bit of that and a forced over-the-top motion after that little tell, they are tough fixes. And that's what worries me about them. So they have high ceilings, but they do have low floors, in my opinion, too, especially Justin Fields. I think Lance, his floor is a little higher. But, those are things that worry me about both of their games.
Okay, I'm going to employ you as a general manager for the Cincinnati Bengals here with the upcoming draft, the 5th pick of the draft. I guess, first of all, I've heard a little bit of buzz about the Detroit Lions potentially wanting to move up to get one of the quarterbacks. Have you heard anything about that? And why the heck would they have an interest in doing that?
I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, there's a lot of people that believe Detroit likes Justin Fields because Chris Spielman's there and helping out in the, working in the organization and all of that right now too. Jared Goff, they traded for him. They're paying him a lot of money over the next 2 years. They can't really get out of it over the next 2 years. So that would be a surprise to me. That would be. It really would be. So I don't know where that goes, but if I'm Cincinnati, it better be a pretty trade package to get me to come off that spot because, essentially you guys are drafting second in the draft there in Cincinnati and can basically pick the best player on the board that's not a quarterback. And there's a lot of value to that where you're sitting at number 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's as far back as I would be willing to trade would be to 7 because particularly if Atlanta takes a quarterback, it'd be a no-brainer because I've got 3 guys, that might want to think about Pitts,
right.
Chase and Sewell, and those 3 guys. So if you go back no further than 7 where Detroit is, you're going to get one of them. Plus, you might get the haul you're talking about. To me, that's my Christmas morning draft. It's like Santa Claus came. I don't necessarily see that because they could get one of their 3 and then an additional 2 or whatever, and then additional picks as well, and have 4 of the top 71, 72 picks in the country and be able to address multiple needs. So that would be just flat out crazy. But let's just say that the top 3 picks are quarterbacks, like everybody's anticipating.
Right.
And let's say that Pitts goes to Atlanta. If a quarterback doesn't go to Atlanta, which I hope does happen, then as you say, the Bengals have the first non-quarterback in the draft. But if Pitts does go, now it's between Sewell and Chase. What do you do as Bengals GM?
Yeah, really, I would be surprised if it doesn't go that way. I mean, I really would. I expect it to be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and then Pitts to the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, it's 2021. A 36-year-old quarterback it's like really a 30-year-old quarterback. I mean, Matt Ryan's got 2-3 years at least left of him. So why give up that good play for, we think this guy can maybe be something 2 or 3 years down the road? That doesn't make sense to me. So then you get to number 5. And Dave, I have been on TV for the most part for the last month, kind of been that guy like Penei Sewell, draft the tackle. Let's protect Burrow, open up holes for Joe Mixon. And you play in the AFC North where we know there's some big bad dudes on the edges of defenses there. But as I started to get closer and I had to do my mock draft and I started to have to figure out and kind of play GM for both teams, I kind of flipped my thought a little bit and thought, if I'm the Bengals, I'm going to go Jamar Chase at number 5. And my logic is this. Listen, you could go Penei Sewell, right, and get a pretty good receiver at the top of the second if you wanted, right? Or you can go the Jamar Chase, a superstar receiver who, I mean, to me is one of the safest picks in the whole draft, and now get a pretty good offensive lineman in the top of the second. To me, again, if you want to have an elite explosive offense, you need one superstar at the wide receiver position. If you want to have an elite wide receiving core, I really believe you got to have at least one superstar that does that. To be an elite offensive line, you don't have to have a superstar offensive lineman. You don't. And that's where I kind of came away with my logic to go, wait, the Bengals got some guys on the offensive line. It's not totally like a bare cupboard. We know it needs to be improved, but is it so desperate that we got to take a lineman who didn't play last year over a guy who I know a receiver didn't play, but is a freak of nature in a lot of ways and has a special connection with our quarterback, and they did special things when they were last together? I just added all that up, and I just said, you know what? Go with the firepower. Go with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, Joe Mixon. Stress defenses out, and you can address some of the offensive line issues as we go on in the draft. It's a decent draft for O-line. It's pretty deep, and you can get some pretty good players, I think, as the rounds go on.
Yeah, it's interesting that your thought process in that, because people that I'm talking to around the league think, like you're saying, there's 7 or 8 really good receivers, and there's a drop-off amongst that 7 to 8, and then a big drop after that, whereas the offensive line, it's deeper all the way through. You could get, particularly in the interior, center and guards, potential starters in the 4th round, and you always can. You always can. So get that elite receiver. It's interesting, though, the last time the Bengals went the top 5 at receiver was A.J. Green. I think the last time in the league, and I heard it on one of your guys' shows, 2017 was Corey Davis, right?
Yes.
That the league went top 5 receiver in 2017 was the last time that happened. So it's not something that's done regularly, but what is it about Chase, his package? I know you've watched a lot of tape on him, Chris. What is it about him? And you've got him number 1 in your list, your top 5 or 6 wide receivers that I saw that podcast on. And you said, that it's there's some competition there, but he's definitely number 1. Are you in agreement with people that go to the last 2 drafts? He's still the number 1 receiver.
I am, definitely. It is a pretty damn special group, I think, this year. Like, I think, Devontae Smith is like, it's not even like number 2. He's 1B. I'm a huge Devontae Smith fan to go along with it. But I think that both of these guys, Chase and Devontae Smith, they would lead last year's draft too. I think they're better than the Jerry Judys, the CeeDee Lambs. Justin Jefferson would be close. CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson would be close, but certainly better than the Alabama guys that came out last year. That's for sure. And Jamar Chase, yes, he'd be the rare guy that you'd go, he only needs to play college football 2 years. He's ready right now. He could have came out last year, and I don't think there's any doubt he would have been the first receiver off the board. Chase there's no weakness to his game. And, within that, you could look at it and go, he can improve as a route runner, even though he has no issues getting open against anybody. But he kind of just does it with his pure physical ability because he's such a special athlete. That's how he gets open. Somebody teaches him some nuance of route running, and I go, wow, watch out. He's really the new trend in the NFL where it's basically a wide receiver in a running back's body to a degree. That's the way he is. And, so the strength and physicality at the line of scrimmage, he has no issue with any of that, let alone he's as quick as all hell to make people miss and get off the ball without being touched. But, of course, then the straight speed to go along with it to scare defenders that way. And for a guy that's 6 foot, they're not 50-50 balls. They're kind of 70-30 balls when you throw them to Jamar Chase. It's unbelievable how he can position his body, box people out, and play much bigger than he actually is. And I think the last thing for me, Dave, is when he does get the ball in his hands, he's like a running back. He is. He can break tackles. He can break ankles. He can make people, just outrun people with pure speed. And I just think from all of that, he's got inside, outside value as far as a slot or an outside receiver. And he has weapon value, what I call, right? Like the Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill factor, where you can go, who cares about your route running? Here's a speed sweep. Here's a reverse. Here's a toss. Just run. You're hard to tackle. So he brings so many things to your offense that I think are, very important. And that's why I love Jamar Chase.
Okay, so you played the quarterback position at a very high, distinguished level. Joe Burrow is a good quarterback in everybody's eyes. There's no question about it. He and Chase hooked up in 2019. Chase won the Biletnikoff Award, and Joe Burrow won the Heisman. And 1,780 yards and 84 catches, 20 touchdowns. Those are all – the yards and the touchdowns are still SEC records. He had 24 catches of 20 yards or more. So 24 of his 84 catches were 2 first downs plus down the football field. So how big of a deal is it, you as a young quarterback, to have a weapon come that you already have in any relationship? It's built on trust and respect. So Joe Burrow and Chase have this built relationship already. How big of a factor is that when the Bengals are thinking through those things?
I think it's got to be part of the thinking. I mean, it's got to be a factor in like, wait, not only are these guys both talented, there is a special connection, and that could, listen, when you have guys that are both love football, both gym rats, both always looking to get better, that's when you get, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, or Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison. And it's more than just the physical ability on the field. It's both guys and their natural instincts to play the game. It's a scramble drill, knowing where to go, let alone a little bit of that unspoken language of being able to just connect a guy with like, hey, we have our own signals. Like, here's the rest of it. But when I do this, this means watch out. I want to throw the fade or the go route because it's bump man to man or whatever. There's going to be that. And that's where I ultimately came back to like Ja'Marr Chase at number 5, just because, the pressure that's going to put on the defense is going to help out the O-line and Joe Mixon and all of that too. And when you have a smart quarterback like Burrow who recognizes coverages and knows how to take advantage of things, that's where it's deadly. And a guy like Ja'Marr Chase is always a get-out-of-jail-free card where, on blitz, it's one-on-one, throw it to the super freak, Ja'Marr Chase. Oh, I'm scrambling. Oh, where's Ja'Marr? He's usually he'll catch a ball here in open space and make something happen. Nobody's open. Let me just throw it up to Ja'Marr again. He'll probably come down with it. That's the flexibility a great wide receiver gives you. And the biggest thing is it does change defenses and how they play when you have a scary guy like that in Ja'Marr Chase.
Yeah, I can just remember over the years talking to quarterbacks when I was playing, and then in the broadcast part of it where it's like, yeah, well, I love this receiver because I know where he wants it and he knows where I'm going to put it. It's that simple. It's like
it is.
We have rep after rep after rep. They already have all those reps in the bag, and they can just add on to and build onto. And I agree with you. Chase, people I talked to at LSU, he's the strongest guy pound for pound in the team. The dude is a brute. And you watch him block on the edge, that's going to help for the running game. And then when people try to jam him, he throws him around. When he arm bars, it's like, he just gets separation just by a little arm bar.
Little nudge, I know.
Yeah. So strong. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to think about there. All right, so at 38, would you definitely go offensive line? Another need the Bengals have is edge rush. What if you get to 38 and the run on our offensive lineman was so extreme that an edge rusher slipped to 38, and it's like, wow, that edge rusher is higher on my big board than this offensive line. These 3 offensive linemen. I might wait till round 3, or would you definitely go with that offensive lineman at 38?
No, that might make me think. That would be a scenario where I'd start to go, ooh, maybe we talk about it, because the edge rushers fall off a cliff, in my opinion. So if there's one there that you like, you might have to jump on them. I think that would probably be my saying, because back to like something you said a little earlier, I still think there's going to be some quality offensive linemen to be had in the 3rd and 4th round that can start for your football team. I was kind of blown away by that position. There were so many guys that I went, man, this guy is like, his talent is top 45 in the draft. He just got some technique issues he's got to fix. Or, they coached him to do nothing in college football because it's all like, inside zone and slide protection. So they've done nothing, right, to see what he actually can do. But I think that would probably be a scenario if there was a true edge guy that I felt like, wait, he could line up wide, off the tackle and really be an issue that way coming off the edge, then yes, I would think about that. But, the big thing is it's not a lot of elite guys at that position. And I would think there's a run on those elite edge rushers somewhere, anywhere from 15 to 35, I think there's a good
Right.
chance they all get gobbled up.
Right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. So, but offensive lineman that might be there at 38. There's a kid locally named Carmen that played at Fairfield High School right here in Ohio and went to Clemson. And I watch him, and I think he's a good player. I think he could put in some tough spots because they man everything.
Oh, my gosh, Dave, they do. I'm with
and
you.
And the SBC's twisting and stunting.
And he's still trying to stay with the guy.
Yeah. It's an impossible situation. It's like, that's a tough evaluation because you're asking the kid to be Superman, But if and I'm not sure if he'd be there at 38, and if he is, and other guys are there, how high he ranks. But in your study, what type of guy might be there potentially at number 38 for the Bengals in the O-line?
Well, I mean, first off, Jackson Carman, who you're talking about, right? I mean, I love Jackson Carman. I mean, love him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being one of those guys where, like an Orlando Brown who got drafted in the 3rd round, right? Who just got traded for the 1st round into the Chiefs. I wouldn't be surprised in a few years we're like, man, this Carman Jackson's one of the best offensive linemen in football. And even guard or tackle, he could probably do both. So I will be interested. He's one, I don't know where he'll fall exactly. It is tough to tell. But to me, he has that type of talent to be right there in the mix with that group there. The kid from Michigan, I think he could be I'm blanking on the name. Let me pull up my list of players here.
Mayfield?
Yes, right. He could be there, I think, still at that area. The Alabama left tackle Leatherwood, who didn't have the best year pass protecting. But if you go back 2 years ago, it was pretty good. And there's a lot of traits and his ability to block in the run game. And, man, some of the good games against the elite teams, he was really good. So I think, there should be, I would say, some choices here to make things happen. A guard, tackle, or even center if they wanted to make it happen. Just a Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. Is he available, at the center position? Again, I think there's going to be lots of options. I really do. I would be shocked if there's not something there for the Bengals to take on the offensive line at that pick.
And I think you raise a good point, Chris, in that the offensive line, even the tackle position, I think a lot of those guys will eventually be guards. I think that this draft is very, very deep inside.
I agree. Right.
Because I think whether it's length of arm or whatever the case may be, some of these tackles, they may be a little bit of a projection on the edge, but inside they could, handle things very easily. So I think you can really help yourself in the interior of your offensive line all the way to day 3. I
agree. Agreed. You definitely could. You're right. And yeah, you're right. It's a different animal at tackle. And I mean that respectfully. I mean, the big tackles have come out of a cave. They're Neanderthals. Those are the best ones. And you got to be able to handle, speed, but also the power rush of guys like Myles Garrett and JPP and all of that. And that's where I think sometimes some of these athletic tackles are a little overrated because I go, yeah, that worked in college, but that's not going to work against, Von Miller or Bradley Chubb or some of those type of guys. But I'm with you. There's a lot of depth there. Liam Eichenberg, right, from Notre Dame. He's a guy that I would look at that probably be available there, and he's one of those guys you're talking about. Maybe can play left tackle, but I'm pretty sure he can be a really good guard. The guard from Notre Dame, Aaron Banks, if you're just looking for a real guard, he's another guy to me. NBC, we cover Notre Dame. I've got to see these guys in person. Yeah, they're legit. And those are two guys, too, that I would say that I think are, in that area of worthy of being drafted.
Well, it's going to be an interesting draft. There's no question about it. I don't think I've seen as much debate and conversation on a draft as I've seen in this year's draft. And why do you think that is, Chris? Just overall level of interest increasing amongst fan base?
Yeah, I think that the quarterback conversation, right? I mean, people are ready to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge that Mac Jones is going to get drafted in front of, Justin Fields. So some people are like in shock. And listen, I don't know, but I'm expecting the 49ers to go Mac Jones. So the quarterback conversation, the COVID opt-outs, I would sit here and go, I think 2 of the 5 best players in the draft, right, that are non-quarterbacks, they have medical issues, and I don't know where they're going to get drafted. I mean, Jalen Phillips is a top 5 pass rusher out of Miami for my money.
Yep.
He's got a concussion history. Where does he go? Caleb Farley, he's a top 5 pick out of Virginia Tech for my money too. He's way better than Jeff Okudah last year out of Ohio State. But he's got the back surgeries and he opted out last year. So that's, I think between lack of information, the opt-outs, COVID, all of that is going to lead to a really interesting draft. And on top of that, kind of something we talked about, there's not a lot of deep superstar talent on the defensive side of the ball. And that is going to be something to watch for, is just how much of a premium is put on some of those top guys, and some teams make some moves in the first round to go get them.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And, I wonder how long it'll be, how many picks it'll be before the first defensive player comes off the board.
I know.
It might be a while.
I agreed. I look at pick number 9 in my mock draft. I had the Broncos going Micah Parsons from Penn State as being the first guy off the board. But, yeah, I think realistically it probably is right around that 9-10 areas where we'll see the first defensive guy go.
Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough. This was great. You were great. The information was outstanding. And I love talking football with somebody that just knows the game inside out like you and your dad. Yeah. Final question. Do you and your dad on a daily basis just hammer out, the draft, football? What's it? Not just Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner. I'm talking on a daily basis. Phil and Chris Sims, what's it like?
Oh, it's I would say 4 to 5 days a week of, we're going to have, one serious football conversation where we're going to go down a wormhole, and it could be talking draft or a specific position of the draft and who we liked and why we liked, or, what do we think these teams will do? But as you know, we love it. We live it. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. And we work at it. And I know everybody is going to agree with my opinions or my dad's, but the one thing, is we do love it, and we really do work at it. And we just love talking about it. My dad's my best friend, let alone he's, really knowledgeable about the game of football. So we have a lot of great conversations where I know I learned a lot from him for sure.
It's interesting in my mind, the biggest variable that you have to figure out when you're evaluating a player, does he just like the game or does he love the game? Because I had teammates when I was playing, they were great players, and I'd say, how about that Monday night game? I don't watch football. I don't really like football.
Right.
I'm doing this because I'm good at it. I'm like, are you kidding me? You put yourself – I don't know how – and you guys, I don't care if it's whatever it is with respect to football, player, coach, broadcaster, you can tell the people that love the game of football, and you're one of those, my man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's the best sport in the world for me. They're not getting rid of me or my big mouth anytime soon. I'm going to keep doing this.
We'll keep doing what you're doing because I love it, man. It's very entertaining and very informative. And thanks again for your time. I know you're a busy guy to carve the time that you did. It's greatly appreciated, and you're the best.
You're the man, Dave. Thanks. Always great talking ball with you. Good luck with everything.